Good evening. Welcome to the Education and Pupil Services Committee in-person and virtual meeting for Tuesday, November 26th. The district posted this evening's agenda at board docs at least 24 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting. Is there a motion to approve that previously posted agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any amendments to offer?
There are no amendments.
The agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please signify by saying I oppose. Those abstaining, please signify by saying I abstain. Motion carried. I will now turn over the Education and Pupil Services Committee agenda to co-chair Ms. Brittany Williams.
Dr. Kelly and Mr. Marshall, can you please begin with an overview of the agenda items, and you can go right into the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So tonight we have two agenda items. One is informational and one is for board action. The first one is the 2024 district review, the interconnectedness among attendance, staffing, and student achievement. Again, this is informational. District administration will review an update on staffing levels within the district, student attendance trends, and student achievement. Throughout the presentation, the administration will highlight the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for improvement in the aforementioned areas. Again, it's informational only. And our second and last agenda item is one board policy, policy 323, tobacco and vaping products. So we'll jump right into the presentation. So tonight we have, we'll take an in-depth review of the current educational landscape in the Upper Darby School District. As you can see up to the side here, we have quite a few team members of the administrative team here to discuss the interconnectedness between student attendance, staffing, and student achievement, and what it really takes to make everyone in the Upper Darby School District successful here every single day. I do want to take this opportunity for those who are listening, out there or in person, to thank everyone in the district who contributes to the overall success of all of our students, from administrators, teachers, staff, and our parents. These jobs are certainly not easy, and tonight you'll have a very close look at what it takes to move our district forward. So jump right into our agenda. First off, we'll go touch on our staffing overview. We'll go through student attendance, district trends, the cohort comparisons, and standard strengths and areas for growth. And last but not least, our action plans will help move our district forward. So right now I'll turn it over to Dr. Council and the Human Resources team to go through our staffing overview, and he'll introduce his team who's presenting with him tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marshallak, and good evening, everyone. Joining me here is Dr. Dan Norelli, Mr. Josh Rehak, Ms. Anna Marie DeLossi, Mr. James Finch will take part in the first part of this presentation. So again, thank you so much. As part of our annual review, we assess staffing requirements based on various factors, including attrition, curriculum changes, federal and state mandates, building modifications, and any other specific concerns that may arise throughout the year. This ensures that we meet the academic, behavioral, and the social needs of our students. I want you to please pay attention to our total enrollment numbers, which stands at 12,189 students. It's also important to consider the growth in our English learner EL student population, which comprises 2,294 students, as well as our autistic support population, which includes 362 supplemental and itinerant students. From kindergarten through 12th grade, our district is tasked with federal and state requirements in order to help students reach high school graduation. To help our students reach not only their personal goals, but also the federal and state requirements, we have to hire highly qualified, certified staff as a priority. And I will continue to say this over and over. You'll continue to hear this throughout the presentation. And later on, I will show you just how complicated this expectation is for all public schools, let alone one of our size. So we are highlighting two specific areas because their enrollment trends require specific staffing. Both groups require direct instruction from certified trained professionals in these areas. So it's essential to recognize that there are unique needs among students that require certifications and qualifications, specific certifications and qualifications.
As the principal of the Kindergarten Center,
I believe it is essential to highlight the rapid growth in our English learner population. Currently, 40% of our student body are English learners, with the majority entering as Level 1 students. At the end of the 23-24 school year, our EL population was 28%, but we have already surpassed this, and the number continues to rise. This shift presents both unique challenges and opportunities as we strive to equip all students with the foundational reading skills critical for long-term academic success. Due to the increasing demand, our 3 EL teachers currently manage caseloads of approximately 60 students each, a clear indication of the need for additional support. To address this challenge, we are implementing a creative solution by encouraging our dedicated classroom teachers to pursue EL certifications. At present, 5 of our teachers are enrolled in EL certification or graduate programs, demonstrating their unwavering commitment to supporting every learner. This not only helps meet the staffing needs of our EL population, but also empowers our teachers to expand their professional skills and better serve the diverse needs of their students.
Thank you, Ms. DeLacy. So the next two slides that you'll see, they'll provide a more detailed look at enrollment trends over the past several years concerning ELs, our English learners, and special education students. Our EL population have grown to over 2,200 students, as I mentioned earlier, and this student population growth continues to require specific direct instruction with a properly certified teacher. And again, you'll hear me say it over and over again. In my current role, I find myself in our team trying to recruit EL teachers from other school communities, or I find myself asking our current teachers to become EL certified. In many ways, what we're doing, we're looking for either a new classroom teacher, reading teacher, or we're hopeful to recruit someone from another district. The following slides will again highlight the significant increase in autistic support population that we observed over the last 12 years. It has become more and more difficult to meet the federal and state requirements over the past several years. In some instances, our student population growth in certain areas require not only more space, but students who require a general education teacher, a special education teacher, classroom assistants, and potentially other special education supports and services, such as occupational therapists, speech therapists, and physical therapists.
And just to add on to what Dr. Council is discussing, if the board and the public remembers last school year, we did come forward the presentation on the reconfiguration of Aronimink Elementary School, specifically for the reason of moving kindergarten from the kindergarten center 2 sections over to Aronimink to relieve some space for at Primus to have some autistic support students come to the kindergarten center to relieve that space. As Dr. Council mentioned, the specialized staffing and support those children need do require space. And we're also finding that's at a premium here in the school district with that growing population we're currently seeing.
Sure. So in light of the continuous rise in students, in the student numbers, it's become essential to increase the staffing of both EL and autistic support teachers over the years. However, finding qualified teachers for these roles have proven to be increasingly challenging for us here in the district. As we continue to discuss our enrollment trends and growth in specific areas, I want to address the challenges we are facing with staffing. The slides you will see illustrate the situation on a national level as well as in Pennsylvania. For now, let's focus on the slide currently on the screen, which highlights a couple of factors that are working against us. First, there has been a significant drop in the number of individuals entering teacher preparation programs. Even more concerning, as shown on the screen, is that among those entering these programs, we are seeing a significant decrease in the number of students who actually complete them. Overall, this results in a 60% decline in the number of individuals obtaining initial teacher certification from 2013 to 2023. So to reiterate, as our specific staffing needs continue to grow, our ability to find individuals is diminishing. We are facing fewer students entering into these programs and fewer students graduating from teacher prep programs. Consequently, we are left with a shrinking pool of certified teachers. In summary, there is not enough supply to meet the demand.
Thank you, Dr. Council. The next set of slides highlight the attitudes and realities surrounding the staffing crisis, both nationally and here in Pennsylvania. Focusing specifically on our district, Dr. Council has already discussed the challenges related to teacher certification. Nationally, there are over 365,000 teachers who are not fully certified for their teaching assignments, along with approximately 42,000 unfilled teaching positions. In Pennsylvania, there are more than 17,000 teachers lacking full certification and around 865 unfilled positions. This presents a significant challenge. We are competing with other states on a national level for a limited pool of qualified candidates, while the needs of our student population continue to grow as the number of our qualified educators declines.
So it's crucial for everyone here out in the community to really understand what we're facing here in the district and in the country. In this country, attitudes towards public education continue to decline. In some other countries, education is revered, as we know. However, here in the United States, public education has become a punchline, leading to a negative shift in attitudes towards the teaching profession. This crisis, the crisis we're currently experiencing are highlighted during the pandemic. It was highlighted during the pandemic, and it showed at that time that education should be considered the most important profession in this country. Unfortunately, it is not. As a result, our children in public schools are suffering. They are affected because fewer and fewer people want to enter into this profession. We cannot solve this problem locally or on our own. It requires a state and national effort to change these trends. The statistics are staggering, and attitudes towards becoming a teacher and perceptions of public education are moving in the wrong direction, as evidenced by the information displayed on the screen.
What challenges are we facing nationally compared to Pennsylvania? On a national level, there are significant challenges affecting nearly every certified area in the country, as depicted on the Likert scale you will see on the screen. Notably, in Pennsylvania, the difficulty in filling elementary school positions, specifically kindergarten through fifth grade, has intensified. While there used to be 50 to 60 applicants for a single position, we are now experiencing a notable decline in available candidates. On a national scale, this issue is evident, but Pennsylvania is particularly affected. One of the goals set by superintendents is to address this problem by establishing a robust elementary program. Unfortunately, we are struggling to find and hire certified elementary teachers in the state. As Mrs. DeLassi mentioned earlier, 40% of the population at the kindergarten center requires English learner services, and that percentage continues to grow. As a result, filling any elementary position, especially at the kindergarten level, has become increasingly challenging. Mr. Finch?
Thank you, Dr. Norelli. Now that we have reviewed the national and state level data, I'd like to focus down onto the teachers who work here with our students. In the Upper Darby School District, we are fortunate to have 981 professional employees under our teacher contract. These are the educators who form the educational foundation of our schools, showing up every day and working tirelessly with our students. Now, our teaching staff is continually evolving, with new members joining us and others moving on. As we have heard tonight, staffing challenges are a reality in many districts, and we are no exception. When vacancies arise after the school year begins, our hiring pool becomes even more limited, particularly in critical areas like special education, math, reading specialists, science, foreign language, English language learners, and English and language arts. While much attention is given to the teacher shortage's impact on students, it's equally important to consider its effect on our current teachers. When vacancies continue to be unfilled, all the state-required services we need to provide our students remain. This creates additional pressures on our educators who are already navigating the complexities of today's classrooms. Many of them are stepping up to cover extra classes or take on additional students in their elementary classrooms. And these efforts are a testament to their dedication, but they also directly contribute to teacher burnout, which is an issue that we must address together. While now I'd like to carefully discuss teacher absences, as they are an important indicator of the challenges our staff faces. Over the past 3 years, we've seen a decrease in teacher absences, which speaks to the commitment of our teachers. They're showing up, persevering, and ensuring that our students receive the education they deserve. We're incredibly lucky to have such dedicated professionals. However, when life happens and teachers do need to take time off, we encountered another layer of challenge, which is the ongoing substitute teacher shortage. Despite a decline in substitute requests corresponding to fewer absences, our fill rate for substitutes has also decreased. This means our teachers are often stepping in to cover for colleagues, further stretching their capacity. And this adds to the factors that ultimately converge on student learning. Just as an example, in our elementary level, this translates to an average of 14 days per year when one of the teachers a student sees daily is absent. A number that grows even higher when you get to the secondary level due to the fact that they come in contact with more teachers daily. But I want to be clear, our teachers, they are the glue that holds this system together. The resilience, professionalism, and dedication deserve our continued recognition and support. And addressing these challenges is not just about staffing, it's about creating a sustainable environment where our teachers can thrive, and by extension, our students can too.
Good evening, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to provide some additional insight on the impact of teacher shortages on student achievement. As a principal, our efforts are to create learning environments to support students' diverse academic, behavioral, and social and emotional needs. Earlier in this presentation, our team shared the complex and unpredictable staffing needs within our school district. Given our vast needs within an essential yet declining profession, I want to share some of the daily and long-term challenges that impact achievement given the diverse needs of our students. As a principal, I see firsthand how these challenges impact not only our educators, but most importantly, our students. While we work tirelessly to address these gaps, these consequences are far-reaching and extremely complex. When qualified educators are not available, schools are often left with no choice but to hire underqualified teachers who lack the necessary training or experience to fill teacher vacancies. While these aspiring teachers have passion and are doing their best, the demands of the classroom and supporting students' needs can be extremely overwhelming, especially without proper previous training and experiential learning within a classroom setting. This creates inconsistent quality of education due to the lack of pedagogical and content area training. Not completing a teacher education program creates opportunities where emergency certified teachers experience challenges in classroom management and student engagement training and experience. For our experienced educators, this often means stepping in to provide additional support and mentorship, which adds to their workload and stress. One of the unintended consequences of teacher shortage is the potential increase in class sizes. With fewer teachers available, classrooms could become more overcrowded. At the elementary level, the lack of substitutes leads to the splitting of classes where students are siphoned into grade-level classrooms. The addition of a handful of students into another grade-level classroom affects daily instruction, disrupts classroom routines, and creates additional challenges to provide individualized and differentiated instruction, and disrupts sequencing of lessons due to teachers delivering different content on that day. This creates more challenging learning environments for both student and teacher grade partners, which can impact both academic outcomes and classroom dynamics. At the secondary level, present teachers may cover daily class vacancies during their scheduled prep time. For a teacher covering a class, it may or may not be within their content area. Not only does this put stress on teachers, but also administration as they work prior to the start of the school day, piecemealing a daily coverage schedule to forward to staff as they report to work each morning. This daily occurrence puts additional stress on present staff members and creates less than an ideal instruction for our many diverse learners. For hard-to-fill positions, uncovered vacancies force teachers to pick up an additional class for an extending period of time for extra pay, but with the consequence of having an additional lesson prep without any prep time built in their day to plan lessons, grade papers, and communicate with students, families, or colleagues. The quality of substitutes is also in decline. A majority of our substitutes, which also have declining fill rates, are emergency certified. Most have degrees outside of education, many from other countries, and do not have experience in classroom management or the understanding or skills to meet the students' diverse needs. In addition, the lack of available educators could potentially force schools to limit their course offerings. Specialized or boutique courses are frequently the first to go. For students, this means fewer opportunities to explore their interests or build diverse skills, which can limit their overall development and future opportunities. Teacher shortages also contribute to higher turnover rates. Underqualified teachers often face burnout quickly, and even our experienced teachers feel the pressure of increased workloads and mentoring responsibilities. This constant churn disrupts the continuity of learning for students and makes it harder for our schools to build a strong and stable teaching community, ultimately impacting the achievement of our students. This brings me to another critical issue, the strain on our remaining teachers. Those who stay are taking on more than their fair share of responsibilities. They're working longer hours, they're covering additional classes, and trying to keep everything running smoothly. While their dedication is absolutely remarkable, it is also unsustainable. This strain not only affects their well-being, but also impacts their ability to be effective in the classroom. As an educator for more than 2 decades, I've seen firsthand the increased need for social and emotional learning and the well-being of our students. We are fortunate to be able to provide a rich social and emotional learning opportunities at all levels to meet the needs of our students where they are. Post-pandemic, our students show the need for programming in more than just academics. We work to build community, teach and reteach routines and expectations as needed, which takes weeks to establish, so that our academic environment can be solid for our students to learn the many skills they need to master to progress and meet our state standards. The need to build meaningful relationships is more important than ever and are so vital to their learning and growth. For some, this can lead to a decrease in motivation, confidence, and overall engagement in school, all of which affect achievement. In the worst cases, it may lead to behavioral challenges or increased reliance on counseling services and other resources which are already strained. As you can hopefully see, the impact of teacher shortages on student learning is far-reaching, extremely complex, and impacts the entire school system.
So with these facts, we often come together and we have to consider the question of what are we left to do? What are our next steps? So as a district, we have been left to recruit, to retain, and to bring individuals into the teaching profession on our own, pretty much. The entire administration in the district is actively seeking anyone with a college degree to join our profession. On the slide displayed in front of you this evening, you will see that we currently have 55 emergency certified teachers. These individuals, they hold a college degree, but they do not have a degree or certification in the subject area that they're teaching. This is our attempt to fill hard-to-fill positions. This is one of our attempts to fill hard-to-fill positions. Of these 55 emergency certified teachers, only 9 have a background in the content that they're delivering. This approach we know is not sustainable. I know, members of the board, that this is a concern for you that you've raised and that we've even discussed throughout this year. However, this data reflects the reality that we're facing. As mentioned by Mr. Finch and Mr. Rehack, we are grateful for these individuals who step in, but ultimately we know that this situation is not sustainable if we do not get the state and the nation to recognize the value of our profession. There's a lot of thank yous, right? We have to say thank you to our teachers, to the principals, and to the supervisors, many of who are in this room this evening, who are conducting interviews around the clock to recruit new staff. Despite the challenges that we're faced with daily in our field, we are reversing this trend. Over the past couple years, we've seen an increase in retention, and this year we have only needed to hire 82 new employees. So many positive things are happening in our district and community. I do want to express my sincere gratitude to the board and the administrators. While we face difficult situations, it is truly a team effort, which is why so many dedicated individuals are here today speaking on this topic. All of those presenting and working throughout the district are invaluable members, contributing to reversing these trends. We are committed to encouraging people to remain and teach in the teaching profession, but more importantly, to stay right here in our district. So a lot is happening in education, and many of you and members of the community might be wondering, what are we doing about this? Here in Upper Darby, we are focused on recruiting and retaining our staff. How have we achieved this? In a number of ways. We have incentivized our employees through creative scheduling in our calendar and by offering financial incentive for those who have stayed with us. Thanks to this board and our administration, we're providing another financial incentive to thank our staff for their commitment. We have also implemented various creative strategies to attract individuals to our profession. On the slide in front of you, you can see some examples of our efforts. We're attending every job fair available and actively engaging with anyone we meet. We have been known to find folks who may have a degree. If we find that they are college educated, we inquire whether they might be interested in changing careers and getting involved in education. After all, what better opportunity is there than to have an impact on a young person's life and to make a difference? Not to mention, we do believe it's times where education is somewhat recession-proof. So there are many positives in this profession, and our primary focus is on creating a supportive environment. Just last week, I'm excited to announce our team, our department, we held a social gathering for all new staff members, allowing them to meet new colleagues and to build a network. We will continue with our events throughout this year to improve our culture and remind everyone in the Upper Darby family that we are all in this together. Thank you.
We're going to transition to our next section of tonight's presentation. We'll focus on attendance data. We have Dr. Lambert, Ms. Jones, and along with myself and Dr. Rassone, we will present the attendance trends through the district this evening. So while we transition our folks up here for the section following this, I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Lambert, who's going to kick off this first section.
Thank you, Mr. Marshallek. Good evening, board members. My name is Tim Lambert. I'm the manager of data and information. The staffing review began by providing an overview of the student demographics, which included our enrollment history and the growing need for specialized services, such as special education or English language support. While they focused on how those values relate to our staffing needs, I, along with Dr. Rassone, Ms. Jones, and Mr. Marshallek, will be taking a deeper dive into the enrollment data itself, focusing on the day-to-day and year-to-year changes that have had both a direct and indirect impact on our staffing needs, program requirements, attendance, and state testing. So let's begin by revisiting that enrollment history chart. Every year we submit student enrollment data to PDE's Pennsylvania Information Management System, commonly referred to as PIMS. And on the October 1st student collection is the industry standard for all analysis and reporting across the state, and also what we'll be using to provide our data analysis tonight. These enrollment numbers are for our Upper Darby schools only and do not include the students placed at approved private schools unless otherwise stated. Looking at the chart, if we discount the first year which data has been collected, which seems to be an outlier due to the high value, the data shows a steady increase in student enrollment starting all the way back in 2009, in the 2009 school year, and continuing to the 2020 school year, which was when the pandemic occurred. The year following the pandemic, there was an immediate drop in enrollment, but the numbers have been increasing since then. You can see this reflected in the chart on the right, which shows a relatively stable enrollment. If you imagine the top of that chart being a surface of a pond, it looks pretty calm, just a couple of ripples on the surface. However, while everything looks consistent and stable, it would surprise you to know that on average, of the first graders that are enroll with us, less than 45% of those students will end up attending as seniors. So calm on the surface, but lots of movement below. To demonstrate what I'm talking about, let's take a look at the 2012-13 first grade student cohort. This is the most recent cohort that graduated. They started with 991 students in first grade, and by the time they reached 12th grade, there was only 399, showing a staggering 60% drop in who did not remain in this cohort. This can be attributed to a number of reasons, such as families moving, students transferring to other schools, or being placed in a approved private school. But when you look at the significant drop in students from that cohort, year after year, and remember that the consistent number of students we show at each aggregate level, the reality is that the student sitting in front of the teacher at the end of the year may not be the same one that was sitting at the desk when school started. These numbers are showing the changes from year to year and does not account for all the students transferring in and out during the school year. Let's take the next logical step. We know that our first grade cohorts are consistently decreasing over time. And we also know that our total enrollment at each grade is not reflecting these decreases, but rather staying relatively the same. So what's happening? Well, the answer may not surprise you, but we enroll many new students. Every year on average, there are 1,400 students withdrawing from the district, and at the same time, we are welcoming a similar number of new faces. This chart is divided into students that were part of our 2013 first grade cohort, which I refer to as the cohort, and those enrolled after October 1st of that first year, our non-cohort. It also includes the students that withdrew from either cohort. What will jump out to you is that over the course of 12 years, Upper Darby teachers are educating over 2,300 different students in just that one grade. The bottom line is that the Upper Darby School District has a high transient student population. While we have been focusing on the most recent graduating class, the 2013 first grade cohort, their trend is not an isolated situation. This chart shows that of the 6 first grade cohorts that have reached graduation, on average, over 56% of those students are no longer together at 12th grade. Additionally, if we remove that first year of PIMS data collection, we can see that the inconsistency in our cohorts is getting larger, not smaller. So what does this mean? How does this affect our district? We wanted to show that when looking at snapshots in time, such as the board monthly enrollment report, it is hard to distinguish the ups and downs that may be occurring between these data points, especially if the aggregate numbers have remained the same. But as we have shown, as one student leaves, another arrives, and this has held true for years. So while the aggregate numbers remain the same, the relative frequent one student out, one student in situation necessitates a significant amount of work for all parties involved: the sending and receiving schools, administration, staff, parents, and most especially the student. Identifying specific educational requirements, integrating the student into our classes, and accounting for the time needed for the new student to acclimate themselves to the new environment can all contribute to a difference in metrics between students who are part of the initial cohort and those who are new to the district. While comparing metrics of the students in a first grade cohort to those who enrolled later, some interesting data points were found. These are not proof of a direct correlation, but rather an insight into the general benefit of student longevity within our educational environment. For the 2013 first grade cohort, across the 12-year span, those in the cohort were present 3 more days per year than those not in the cohort. While seemingly small, the state's regular attendance calculation, which Dr. Asin will provide greater detail on later, allows for a maximum of 10% absences before being flagged as chronically absent. Therefore, by extension, students in the cohort are 17% less likely to be chronically absent. Again, for that 2013 first grade cohort data set, students who started with us in first grade achieved a rate of 10 to 15 percentage points higher on state assessments as compared to the students who were not with us since first grade. And when looking at all the available first grade cohorts, students that started with us in first grade stayed with us an average of 5.8 years, while those not in the cohort stayed enrolled on average 3.6 years. So while we showed you our enrollment history and went into detail about student cohorts and how Upper Darby is constantly having to account for our changing community, that even though the pond looks calm, there is still a lot going on under the surface. However, the one thing that is not staying the same, but rather drastically increasing, is our English learner population. A picture tells 1,000 words, and when you look at the slide, it shows 2,290 current EL students. That you can immediately see that we have been increasing significantly in the last couple of years, and how the numbers are trending, it is not slowing down. In fact, we are seeing increases in almost all grade levels each year, especially at the lower grades and 9th grade, which implies continual growth in this area. From 2008 to 2018, our EL population consistently grew, but slowly, going from around 6% to 8% of all our district students, and consistently around 50% of our non-kindergarten new students were identified as EL. In the school year 2020, a more substantial increase of 1.4% occurred, moving EL students up to accounting for now 10% of our total enrollment for that year. The numbers remain consistent for the pandemic hybrid year, but then started to take off. A 1.7 increase, then a 1.9, 2.1, and most recently a 3.1 increase into this current school year. That increased our EL population to around 19% of our total enrollment for the current school year. We went from 10% to 19% EL population in just 5 years. How is this happening? Well, we showed that we have a lot of student turnover from year to year. As mentioned previously, for many years, around 15% of our new students were identified as EL. However, starting around 2020, the percentage of non-kindergarten new students enrolling at the different grades being identified as EL started to increase. 20%, 22%, 30%, and now we're looking at 30%, 37% of this year's new or re-enrolled students were identified as EL. This increase in EL students is our new or re-enrolled students, this increase in EL students is greatly contributing to the district's overall EL increase. So how does this affect us? There are many direct and indirect actions that need to be accounted for to address this dramatic increase. The most obvious is the need for additional staff, which Dr. Council discussed, but there is also a need for additional space. Even if overall student enrollment remains steady, additional student programming needs, such as EL, that require additional staff necessitate the need for additional space to facilitate the learning environment needed for that staff and their students. With that, I will hand it off to Mrs. Jones.
Thank you, Dr. Lambert. Good evening. As a special education supervisor, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the special education data that's displayed on the screen. The graphs on the left and the top right illustrate the historical enrollment and growth trends of special education students within the Upper Darby School District. Over the past decade, while the overall number of special education students has increased incrementally, there has been a significant rise in the number of students requiring specialized programs, such as autistic support. And that's shown in the graph in the bottom right of the screen. These specialized programs serve students with more complex needs and often require a higher level of support. This may include assistive technology, related services, interventions, one-on-one services, nursing care, and in some cases, intensive full-time programming. The provision of these services demands a high level of expertise, training, and certification from our educators. As a former special education teacher with over 10 years experience in the classroom, I can confidently speak to the dedication, expertise, and resilience that this work requires. While the increasing number of students with intensive needs highlights the importance of this work, it also presents an opportunity to address the shortage of qualified special education teachers. And then with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Marshallek.
So up on the screen, you'll see a very quick snapshot comparing 2023 and 2024. I want to point out that although the percentages might be incremental differences from year to year, keep in mind this also represents our total enrollment, which is about 12,500 students. So when you see a small percentage increase, that represents a lot of students going from year to year. So you can see the different demographic sections here we're highlighting. In particular, the foster care students who are not have an NA for this reporting year 2024, it's about 50 students. But I think what's not telling in the story is that many of the students are coming with complex needs. Many of the students might be crossover youth, meaning they might have more involvement with one or more systems of care within our county, or multi-systems youth. So a lot of work goes into helping these students be successful in our classroom. But again, we want to highlight the difference from year to year in our growth in these specific areas. And again, while they might look small, percentage-wise, it does represent a large number of students from year to year that we are increasing in this school district. I'm going to turn over to Dr. Asone, who'll go through our attendance background and results.
Great. Thank you. Post-pandemic, we have seen a drastic increase in absenteeism. This is not only true within our district, but across the Commonwealth and nationally. There are two different ways that attendance is calculated, and they are average daily attendance and regular attendance. Please keep in mind that the state of Pennsylvania grades districts based on regular attendance. Average daily attendance is the total days of student attendance divided by the number of instructional days. If a school has 100 students in the school and 5 are absent on a particular day, that school would have a 95% as their average daily attendance for that day. Our schools use this data to see trends in attendance and to celebrate and motivate our students. In regards to regular attendance, the state of Pennsylvania uses this to determine what percentage of students are not chronically absent. Chronic absenteeism is when a student misses more than 10% of the school year. To determine a school's regular attendance rate, The state takes the number of students who have not missed more than 10% of the school year and divides that by the number of students enrolled. Another way to say this is regular attendance is the number of students who are not chronically absent divided by the total number of students enrolled. The only caveat to this is that in order to be included in this calculation, a student must be enrolled in the district for more than 90 school days. The data that the state reports on attendance has a lag time as compared to the academic data that is reported. For example, the most recent attendance data that is reported by the state is for the 22-23 school year. This makes it more challenging for districts to really gauge their intervention efforts. However, our best efforts to track and manage data assist us in understanding this data closer to real time. This provides us with insight on the effectiveness of our interventions. Prior to the pandemic, our average daily attendance number across the district was 93%. This is compared to 94% nationally. Coming out of the pandemic, our district's average attendance rate dropped to 91% compared to 92% nationally. According to some internal metrics, we believe our average daily attendance percentage is moving closer to pre-pandemic levels. Our regular attendance prior to the pandemic was at 81% for the 18-19 school year. This is compared to 84% nationally. Coming out of the pandemic, our regular attendance rate dropped to 74% for the 21-22 school year, compared to 70% nationally. Based on internal data, we believe our current regular attendance rate is nearing the levels we saw before the pandemic. With all that being said, I'd like to reflect back on what Mr. Finch stated concerning the challenge of staff absenteeism and how difficult it is to get substitute teachers. On average, our students are absent approximately 12 days per year K-12. If we add this to Mr. Finch's number, our students are not in front of one of their teachers for 26 days out of the school year. On the next slide, we will discuss what we are doing to continue to build upon the uptick in attendance that we are experiencing so far this school year. Well, that's this slide. Here are some of the resources and supports that we are providing our students and families to improve student performance. Each of our buildings have weekly attendance meetings. At these meetings, we look at student data, ensure we are following our attendance procedures, and discuss specific students and determine targeted strategies to improve student attendance. We have been providing professional development time for our school counselors and social workers to work together to review online resources to support student attendance. We also work to engage parents through our student attendance improvement conferences. We send notices to parents via email, through phone calls, and letters about attendance in multiple languages, messages via parent link with information and statistics concerning attendance. Our attendance teams, most notably our social workers and attendance officers, conduct home visits to engage our families and to help our students improve their attendance, among providing other supports. We provide parent training nights on various topics, including helping your child build good habits, supporting your upset child, less conflict and more cooperation, among other trainings. We have implemented Attendance Awareness Month, where we are sending weekly messages from the district about the importance of attendance. We have positive behavior intervention support lessons that focus on attendance, and each building has attendance-based initiatives that include competitions by grade level or homeroom, where the grades or homerooms receive prizes such as extra recess or excellence in attendance awards. Schools are posting promotional posters in classrooms and hallways concerning attendance and having announcements promoting school attendance, among other initiatives. We are continuing to provide mental health supports. Every building has a school counselor and social worker. At the middle school level, we have converted lead teacher positions into what we call student support specialists. These are master's level school counselors. We have increased the number of school counselors at the high school. We have partnered with Child Guidance Resource Center to provide small group counseling to our students during the school day in some of our elementary schools. We currently have a social worker whose job is solely to focus on supporting our students who are experiencing housing instability or who are in the foster care system. We have a social worker at the high school dedicated exclusively to supporting student attendance. We have a partnership with Lakeside Neurologic that provides professional development for our staff on brain-based strategies to support students who have experienced trauma or a myriad of other concerns such as hyperactivity or emotional dysregulation. We provide social emotional learning and PBIS lessons to our students K-12. Our Student Assistance Program provides opportunities for students who may need mental health or drug and alcohol supports outside of the school setting. Additionally, we work with the Child Guidance Resource Center to provide school-based outpatient programs in 3 of our schools that are available to all students across the district. Some of our academic supports include MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports for math and reading, special education reading and math, after-school homework clubs, software programs such as IXL, Waggle, and Amira, 3 learning location options, and elementary reading nights, to name a few.
So our next section, we're going to go through our academic standard analysis and action steps. You can see there's a number of district level and building level administrators who will present this evening to close out this evening's presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kelly, who will start us off.
Trends in staffing, student needs, and changing student populations all impact how academic standards are delivered in the classrooms, further adding to the school district's complexity. Each state standard outlines what students should know and be able to do at each grade level, based on the assumption that all students enter with the same background knowledge and have mastered skills from the previous grade. However, each year, teachers are tasked with working with a diverse group of students who bring varying levels of skill development and areas of weaknesses, requiring them to build upon existing strengths or address gaps through remediation. In the following few slides, we will focus on strengths, areas of growth, and our continued efforts to improve skill acquisition, specifically in mathematics and English language arts. The annual standard analysis becomes our guidepost for professional development planning and supports the goals listed in the district's comprehensive plan. Before turning over the presentation to Mr. Comfort, who will review our analysis of the math standards, I want to point out that the state identifies some math standards as major standards. This means any new learning in subsequent grade levels depends on skills and strategies within these standards. For example, the knowledge of numbers in operation begins as early as kindergarten with the understanding of comparing numbers and quantities. It then builds to 4th grade, which is fractions, then builds to 6th grade with ratios. When one skill is not acquired, the next skill becomes more challenging for students to access. As former high school math teachers, Mr. Comfort and I understand the importance of mastering these major standards and the need to make these an immediate focus, as they are the foundation of future work in 8th grade mathematics, Algebra 1, and all higher level math. Mr. Comfort will now review our analysis, which identifies our strengths, our areas for growth, and provides examples of what our students are expected to learn as indicated by grade level standards.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. I'm excited to talk about and give examples of the strengths and growth of our students in mathematics in the district. First, I will go over our strengths in grades 3 through 8th. In 3rd and 4th grade, our strength is place value. An example of this would be the number 235. In terms of place value, 235 would be 2 hundredths plus 3 tenths plus 5 ones. While understanding these place values, we can do operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. 5th grade students perform operations with multi-digit whole numbers and with decimal places to the 100th. This is exciting, as most people hate decimals anyway. An example of this would be 2.52 times 1.24. Compute with multi-digit numbers and find common factors and multiples for 6th grade. This is great news as students move forward. Students will use these ideas when it comes to simplifying irrational numbers and more. 7th grade students are applying and extending previous understanding of operations to add, subtract, multiply, and divide rational numbers. This includes students using operations on numbers that can be written as a fraction or a whole number. Our growths for 3rd through 8th grade have been broken down by the strands. Under numbers and operations, a theme for growth in grades 3 through 6th is fractions, which we saw under the strength which is happening in 7th grade. In 8th grade, students are continuing to work on irrational numbers like pi and the square root of 2. For algebraic concepts, here are some examples of our strengths for numerical and algebraic concepts. A book costs $10. How many books can Jimmy buy with 50? Students also need to write numeric and algebraic expressions for examples. For example, calculate the area of a rectangle with length of 7 and width of 4. The algebraic expression would be length times width, and the numerical expression would be 7 times 4. While looking at Algebra 1, Keystone Strengths, we see a strength in linear equations. For example, a parking garage costs $10 for the first 2 hours and $1 for every hour after. These are real-life examples that students will use as they grow. These concepts help with logic to save money in the future. You'll notice that both examples I've given are word problems that involve more than just mathematical number crunching. It also involves reading math in context and interpreting those statements. For our growths, one of our growths comes under geometry for slope. Slope is the rate of change between two data points. Another growth deals with functions, specifically analyze and or use pattern or relations. Some examples to describe this would be observing and collecting data, gathering relevant information in a structured way, like creating a table or graph. Looking for repetition, identifying recurring elements or sequences in data. Or identify the rule, determine the underlying pattern or relationship between variables, which could involve addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. And lastly, make a prediction to use to identify pattern to forecast future outcomes or explain trends.
Thank you, Mr. Comfort. So similar to the analysis Mr. Comfort just provided, we will hear from Mrs. DeLassy about our strengths and areas for growth in English language arts. The standards in English language arts are structured differently than those in math. For each grade level, the standard remains relatively the same, just becoming more and more complex through the years. For example, vocabulary acquisition in informational text requires students to determine the meaning of unknown and multiple meaning words and phrases based on grade level reading and content. As students progress through the grade levels, while the standard remains the same, the reading and the content becomes increasingly challenging. I will now hand the presentation over to Mrs. DeLassy, who will discuss the complexity of reading and provide an analysis of the ELA standards in the upcoming slides.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Through our analysis of the ELA standards, we identified the following strengths. In vocabulary acquisition and use, students have shown an understanding of vocabulary and figurative language in informational texts in grades 3 through 8, and in literature, grades 3 through 5. This does not surprise me if you consider the rising number of EL students and the number of students we have identified as needing special education services. It makes sense that teachers would focus on vocabulary development. In grades 6 through 8, applying the conventions of language refers to the structure of our language and applying those rules in context. Finally, in the area of craft and structure in literature, students in grades 3 through 5 have made strides in analyzing an author's use of text structure, point of view, and literary devices to better understand the text. Our areas of growth are directly tied to our students' ability to answer questions based on grade-level texts, requiring both comprehension and a high level of critical thinking to respond effectively to text-dependent analysis questions. And now I'll move on to slides 32 and 33. Once again, I come to you as a kindergarten principal to emphasize the critical importance of building strong foundational reading skills in kindergarten, as these skills are the starting point for each student's journey toward academic success. What we do here in kindergarten has a lasting impact on students' progress, shaping their entire educational path. Foundational skills like phonological awareness, letter recognition, and decoding are crucial for developing fluent word recognition, which is necessary for reading comprehension. Without these skills, students expend so much cognitive energy decoding words that they have little left to understand the text. This, in turn, affects their ability to engage with grade-level materials, especially in subjects like science, social studies, and math, where reading is integral. Moreover, early deficits in vocabulary and exposure to diverse text structures make it harder for students to interpret complex texts as they progress. By the time they reach upper grades, these gaps become evident in their struggles with analyzing, interpreting, and synthesizing information, key components of higher order thinking. These challenges not only limit academic performance, but also impact motivation. Students often find reading frustrating, which can lead to disengagement and long-term social and emotional effects, such as low self-esteem and a lack of confidence in learning. Kindergarten is the starting point where we begin to build these essential foundational skills, and what we do here affects their journey. For example, in August, as students began kindergarten, we immediately assessed their ability to recognize letters and sounds of the alphabet. The Kindergarten Center assessed 413 students. Fewer than 40% of those students were able to identify upper and lowercase letters of the alphabet. The initial assessment also showed that 73% of the students did not recognize letter sounds. It is evident from these test results that we had students with deficits in early literacy skills, and immediately our teachers began explicit instruction in phonological and phonemic awareness and phonics. The PowerPoint you see today showcases our students' needs, underscoring that it all starts with us. The foundation we lay here in kindergarten impacts students year after year, and it is essential that we address these gaps as soon as possible. To help address these issues, we can turn to Scarborough's Reading Rope, which highlights two critical components of skilled reading: word recognition and language comprehension. Word recognition includes phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition, while language comprehension involves background knowledge, vocabulary, and inferencing. Each of these strands is interdependent, and without a strong foundation in word recognition, it is difficult for students to progress in reading comprehension. I can predict with confidence that by the end of the school year, most students will not only recognize letters and sounds, but will begin reading words and expanding their sight word vocabularies. But despite these remarkable gains and the dedication of both students and teachers, gaps will remain as students transition into first grade. First grade teachers will quickly identify these gaps and continue working on them while also challenging students with grade level material. Each year, most students make significant progress, finishing the year far stronger than they began as they continue to work on breaking the code. However, this is no small feat. Now remember, when I stated we tested 413 students in the beginning of the year, as of November 25th, the Kindergarten Center now has 483 students enrolled. With a growing population of transient students, an increasing number of English learners, and ongoing staffing challenges, balancing remediation and enrichment for all students is a complex and demanding task.
Good evening, everyone. So at this point, you may be asking yourself, how are we addressing these concerns in the classroom? Despite all of the challenges outlined this evening, we continue to try and have a positive impact on classroom instruction through the action steps listed on this slide and future slides. To strengthen instructional practices and improve student outcomes in grades K to 5, comprehensive support is provided to teachers, reading specialists, and librarians across key content areas. Instructional coaching and modeling lessons for grades K to 5 in math and ELA ensure that our teachers implement effective strategies and utilize appropriate materials for instruction. This targeted guidance helps to align teaching practices with curriculum goals and promotes a consistent approach to student learning. In first and second grades, reading specialists deliver focused support during the ELA block, offering targeted, differentiated instruction in small groups. This approach addresses specific student needs and reinforces foundational reading skills, fostering literacy development during the critical stage of learning. Additionally, professional development initiatives help our elementary teachers deepen their understanding of informational text, integrating strategies through the social studies and science curriculum. This integration builds students' content knowledge while improving their ability to navigate and analyze nonfiction texts. Elementary librarians also receive targeted support to enhance their understanding of key ideas and details in both literature and informational texts. By equipping librarians with these skills, they can better support students in developing comprehension and analytical abilities across genres. Together, these efforts create a cohesive framework for literacy, numeracy, and content learning, empowering our teachers and supporting our students on their journey for academic growth.
Good evening, everyone. Like Dr. Manfrey, who spoke about our work at the elementary level, I want to emphasize the efforts of our secondary level staff, who consistently go above and beyond in their dedication to our students' success. The secondary staff, like their counterparts at the elementary level, are constantly working on initiatives and providing instructional support that far exceeds what we can present tonight. At the high school level, our staff has implemented common assessments incorporating test items from the Pennsylvania Department of Education Standards-Aligned System. This comprehensive research-based resource is just one example of how our educators go the extra mile to improve student achievement and align assessments with state standards and expectations. The dedication of our staff is evident in their utilization of professional learning communities to review formative and summative assessment data. This process, which demands significant time and effort, helps identify common errors and misconceptions, allowing our teachers to address these issues more effectively. Our middle school staff's commitment is equally valuable as they continue to develop their expertise in the multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, process and intervention resources. This ongoing effort ensures we provide targeted support to students with varying needs. In the realm of math instruction, our secondary math teachers are integrating educational technology tools such as Polypad and Desmos, one providing digital manipulatives and other digital scientific and graphing calculators used on both PSSA and Keystone exams. We must highlight that our commitment extends to providing teachers with professional development opportunities that align with research-based recommendations from resources such as the Institute of Education Sciences to ensure our instructional practices are grounded in proven methodologies. I cannot stress enough how grateful we are for the incredible work our administrators and staff do daily. While I highlighted some ways we support instruction and student learning, it's essential to recognize that these examples only scratch the surface of the tireless work behind the scenes. Our team's ability to adapt, innovate, and persevere in adversity is a testament to their commitment to our students' success. Dr. Kelly and Mr. Marshallak will now expand on the instructional practices across the district to support these efforts further and ensure our continued progress.
This slide lists the various district systems and structures the school board has supported to address our areas for growth and further advanced our strengths. These action steps provide support for our core instruction and intervention periods, engage our teachers, principals, and district leaders in data analysis, and deliver professional development for our teachers in early literacy skills and instructional practices for our English learners. The district's plan aims to enhance student outcomes through targeted interventions, resource allocation, and professional development.
So in this slide, you'll see some more district action steps. I'm not going to read them all to you tonight. They'll be up here on the presentation to take a look at. But as you'll see on this slide and throughout tonight's presentation, just what it takes to move our district forward. All of our students, all of our teachers, all of our staff, there's a full commitment to driving our students and having our district move forward. While there are other challenges and there's factors that might be barriers to access education that our students may face, it does take a total team effort to overcome those barriers and provide the care for each and every one of our students every single day in every one of our buildings here in Upper Darby School District. The next two slides are some resources that we use to prepare this presentation that, again, we won't review tonight specifically, but they'll be up there for future use or future review from the board and for the public. If there's anything else, we'll go through some questions from the board.
I think one thing I just want to start off with is just a thank you to the staff, everybody in the district, teachers. I especially know what it's like when you work a full day and you only get a lunch period and you don't get any prep, and it's a chronic issue. I really think the presentation really highlighted the crisis that we're facing right now in the United States. I don't think people realize just how severe it is. The schools understand it, but hopefully we can get the community and, like we said, our state and then, our federal government to really understand it. We need help. So I had just a few questions. Bear with me. And it's not a lot. And maybe you already addressed this in things that you're doing. But when we talk about the EL population and how we're supporting our teachers, we talked about a pipeline. Have we had any thoughts about incentivizing it with extra money if teachers are to get that extra cert? Maybe that's something we can look at in the future.
Yes, we can talk about that. There are specific, Ms. Williams, specific parts of the teacher contract where we're able to get extra pay for specific positions, like a psychologist. Certain positions do have a 1.1 additional funding for what they do. It's a negotiated process, so we can certainly talk about that in the next contract. Right now, we're not in a position in a contract to give those dollars out that way, but we will certainly talk about it. We've tried to do that for special education. It didn't work out the last teacher contract. We'll try to do it again. Okay.
And then how are EL teachers assigned? Like, is it a situation where they can share? Can a building share?
We have moved away. This came up, I don't know if it was 2 years ago or a year ago, Vice President Williams. I forget when it was. I know you brought this up before. We've moved away from sharing, and we hire 1.0 for a couple of reasons. Number one, way back in the day when I first started teaching, you would be happy to be like a part-time teacher just to get your foot in the door. You might be shared, 0.2 or 0.1 in different schools. When I worked in the Westchester Area School District, that was not an uncommon process. First, it's very hard to hire anybody that wants to be a 0.5, a half-time employee. Then when you hire a half-time employee, trying to replace that half-time employee with another one doesn't work out. And as Vice President Williams shared in the past, we have moved away as a school district to have all 1.0s in the district where we can. Now, in the past, we did share some of our smaller schools, but we're trying to make sure that the staff is in that building working with those students there. If they have an EL population of students, we're hiring a 1.0 to service those students. The problem is that every year we go to the board to ask for EL teachers. And we have last year, I think it was 3 additional EL teachers, or 4. We have a hard time hiring them, so we have to pull our own teachers out of the classroom, get them certified, and then backfill with another teacher, which is complicated.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question, or is not maybe a comment again. Do we offer an incentive for recommendations for when people bring other people in, like teachers? If you bring in someone that you know, and they successfully onboard, stay for maybe a certain amount of days, is there some type of incentive?
You're gonna laugh at this. I'm gonna go back in time. I don't know if he's watching tonight, Mr. DeFligger. If you're watching, thank you. But back in the day, I don't know if that resolution would still last, Kyle. I'll have to ask you. But back in the day, several superintendents ago, we had a superintendent that incentivized for such. I think it was like $100 or $200 if you brought a teacher here. I'll have to go back and look if that's still in place, or we can do that. We don't have that in place now.
And just to echo Brittany's sentiments about the work that you've done, I really appreciate the detail that went into this presentation. And we already know, the board members already know all that you're doing to address attendance and the teacher shortage. The one question, well, several questions. First question, the special ed population was like 2,400. Does that include autistic support, the supplemental, and?
Yes.
That does include
It does,
Okay,
yeah.
because I was gonna say, that's different. That's a whole $400 more kids. Okay, the next question, the 5 teachers that enrolled in the EL program, did we incentivize them going and getting their certification? Like, did we help to pay for their certifications?
We help cover the costs of the certification. They don't get additional pay for the
Right,
certification.
okay.
We do help cover the cost.
When will they be completed their course?
It depends on the path that they took. There's an accelerated pathway, and there's some who are doing a master's, but some could be finished within the year.
Okay. Next, Brittany and I know all too well about what's happening in early childhood with the alarming numbers of children coming into preschool with autism. Alarming numbers. Some classes used to have like 1 to 15 or 20. Now we have classes that have 11 to 20, which is making them no longer inclusive classrooms. Is there anything that we can do to incentivize specifically teachers going into getting autism certs?
Yes, again, and I appreciate these questions, and we were going to feel more encouraged the next time we go to the table to have these conversations. In the area of special education, EL, I think OT, PT, speech, language, we really need to look at those positions and have a conversation about their compensation being differently to bring them in. This is not to be taken out of context against our teachers union, but teachers union negotiate that the teachers' salaries are similar. So that's been a hard conversation to have, that a EL teacher or a special education teacher, their salary should be different than a general education teacher's position. And this presentation tonight kind of works against us because it's clear also all these jobs are now hard to fill. But yes, we will continue to look at how do we incentivize folks to go into that particular area. Some of the things I think I want you to share, I don't want to keep you all night on this, but there's also another part of this as a special education teacher, which is tort liability and the lawyers at the end of the table here and being in due process hearings and litigation. There's conversation about capping legal fees and the stress related to special education, which is another area that I won't go into tonight. We could talk about that at a different time. But that lends itself to why people don't want to be in those positions either. Mm-hmm. Just the legal ramifications and the constant pressure of stress is also a reason why people are leaving. And if there's a way to alleviate some of that pressure, it may incentivize people to do the job. No offense, Kyle.
First, thank you so much for all the information. And this is the most diverse panel I think I've seen since I've been on the board. So thank you all for presenting tonight. Dr. Orstone, thank you so much for your presentation. I think if our students aren't in our buildings, they can't get all these wonderful services we're offering. So I've appreciated seeing that information. I get 2 in particular from Westbrook Park and from Charles Kelly. So I appreciate seeing all those attendance announcements that go out to the parents, encouraging our students to come to school. So I really do appreciate all those initiatives that have been happening since September when our students started. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I just had one question about assessments. I noticed one of the areas for growth for us were the TDAs. I want to make sure I'm still speaking in the mic. So Dr. Kelly, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but I saw some things that we're doing to kind of help, but I know TDAs are a big part of our PSSA. So I wanted to know kind of specifically what are we doing to address that portion for our students?
You are correct. It is a large part of the state testing. Mrs. O'Neill, who is in the audience, and Dr. Kenya, they have been working with the IU in particular to really boost up what we are doing in the classroom there. We've been providing professional development since August and it not just this year, back last year, even the year before that, to really focus on TDAs, really that analysis part, which becomes that higher order thinking, which is hard. But we have been providing professional development in this area, specific, explicit direction on how to teach TDAs for all of our teachers.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I had one direct question, one kind of thinking out loud question. My question pertains to specifically attendance. To clarify for the benefit of everyone in the community, when we're talking about absences, are we, does it, in terms of what the state cares as being chronically absent or whatnot, do they differentiate between if it's excused or not? Do they differentiate if it's vacation for religious or cultural purposes? Does that count being absent due to disciplinary action that has been taken upon the student? Can we clarify that at all?
Sure. Damien, good question. No, all of those things, they count equally. So if a child's suspended from school, that counts as an absence. If a child is sick and at the doctor's, that counts as an absence. If we don't get a note for a child being absent, it's a truant day, but it's also an absence, right? And so those things, if they compile up, and I believe the reason that they do that is because the research suggests that children who are chronically absent from school, regardless of the circumstance, statistically do worse in all categories across the board than children who aren't.
And that was going to lead into my second kind of thinking forward question. Do we have data, or could it be pulled to make that comparison between students who aren't classified as chronically absent and what their performance and attitudes in school are versus the people for varying degrees who fall into that chronically absent territory? Because I'm almost a little bit too careful to automatically lump them all into one specific stereotype, because there could be a variety of reasons why a particular student is by definition chronically absent. However, because of the services that we do have to provide, and because of perhaps maybe that student has a really strong family background, they're able to keep up, if not go past what their expectations are. So I just want to kind of put that out there.
Sure. And in our interventions that we're providing, and when you're talking, I'm thinking about if that child's able to keep up and they're out 18, 25, 30 days of school, imagine what they could do if they weren't. So, regardless of the situation and where the child is at in terms of their academic achievement or their social emotional achievement, how they're doing socially with other children, we're still trying to really get those kids to understand the value of coming into the building to really see how high they can go and what expectations they can meet.
Hi, thank you team, bring this so many issues today. So far we have 17,252 students. We have it. Naturally, when the student goes up, we need the more teacher shortage. This is real things. So for our recruitment issue, I am talking something, love to talk. I had a conversation with Dr. Council before, and I sent him some few peoples. He hired them. This is very easy and going. And I need to say more frequent, easy to get in the peoples, so many peoples. So there is the social media is so crowded nowadays. People love to get in, but when they go 10, 15, 20 pages, they're tired. They stop it. They don't go further. So I think so. I love to talk a old school system. If we go to our local college and hire our fresh graduate, so directly connected. This is Ivy League school. So all the corporations, they goes there. They hire them years before they graduate. So I know few people, the fresh graduate, they work in the CVS, Rite Aid, some of the McDonald's. They should not go there. They are educated people, graduate people. They should come to teach our kids. This is the way we should be. So please consider these things to connect the local colleges and connect with them. Not Ivy League, they're not coming here. We're not paying them much money.
We just so the board does, I think many do. We have partnerships and agreements. Actually, it's a state requirement to have a dual enrollment agreement at some point. So we are recruiting and trying to bring teachers in right away. In fact, over the time, we have a program at our high school where we're offering kids jobs when they leave high school to come back and teach here right away. So to your point, we'll continue to do that work that Dr. Council and the team are trying to get them early on and guarantee them a job here in the community and be creative. And I appreciate that.
And another thing is we need to go to the college. our local college.
Yep, we do. We do. Not to brag, but Dr. Council, I teach. Mr. Marshallak, Dr. Norelli, we teach graduate classes. I teach at St. Joe's and have taught other places for principals and doctoral programs, and we try to recruit folks that are around this room that we brought in from teaching those graduate programs. We recruit people while we're teaching. So we do that. We have those connections. It's just that fewer and fewer people are going in with a degree to get this degree.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I just want to take a minute for the board, that the team that put this together, it's almost every single administrator that's in this room, even those who didn't participate. There were days of work and hours of time that went into taking how seriously it was to give you a comprehensive look of what's happening. Just some information in 2020 and 2021. And Deborah, John was referring to you when you brought up the question in the past about emergency certifications. Yeah. We had 8 emergency certified teachers in 2021. 8. We have 58 today. Okay? If you read the Philadelphia Inquirer, it's doubled in the Philadelphia School District. Not that we don't want people to come into the profession, but this board, this community is left to solve a national and state issue. If you take some of the statistics that you saw tonight, remember the data that you saw on the first slide that Dr. Council talked about is this year's data. That's already up 2 to 3 percentage points from the data that you saw, the 23 and 24 data that was on there. When you're talking about a 2% or 3% change, that's 300 new EL students from year to year. That's an increase of almost 300 new students in a population, a total population. So that is unpredictable. The other part that Dr. Council and the team is talking about is we are having to balance a budget before a state budget. We think we might get federal aid cut, as we all know. I won't go into that conversation tonight. So Title I, Title II, and Title III could be cut. Title III services EL students. Every year, the predicting of students coming in and out of this community is becoming more and more complicated and complex. Add to the fact we're being held accountable for attendance when during just a few years ago, stay home if you're sick. Now it's go back to work and go into the classroom if you're sick. Some of the state rules and federal rules have not caught up with reality. But that doesn't mean the school district and the school board and this administration and the teachers are not giving everything they have to it. The amount of work that these guys put in this presentation is awesome. And I want to say thank you. It shows that we touched every part of the organization and showed you what you put forth as a school district, as a school board. So thank you for allowing them to present, which I think before Thanksgiving is a lot of slides, but I think it's valuable information that should stand. If someone was about to do their dissertation and wants to get their doctorate in education, each one of these slides could probably be turned into a research study if you were interested in that.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Marshallak and Dr. Kelly, would you mind just recapping? Oh, wait, we got one more. I'm sorry. Let's go back to the agenda. The policies that require board action. We can go into that one.
Sure. There's one policy for consideration at this meeting. It's policy 323, tobacco and vaping products. And this is actually the correction of a slight oversight. During the September 10th, 2024 board meeting, this policy underwent a second reading to adopt updates resulting from PA Act 33 of 2023. Updates to the reporting requirements from the Office for Safe Schools to the PA Department of Education were inadvertently left out of the updates the board adopted at its September 10th, 2024 meeting. These updates are being considered during this meeting. Thank you. That concludes my update.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Are there any public comments? Please come to the mic.
So I have a 5th grader, and hello, Mr. Rehag, at Aronimink. So very happy with my son at Aronimink. I did have a few questions because we talk a lot about attendance. So my son was in school every day last year. He was very proud about 100% attendance, and then I say, well, why aren't we giving like an incentive to the kids or certificate? Something very simple, because I hear a lot about attendance. And even when we thought about taking a family vacation, Mason said no, because it's going to mess up my attendance. And so at the end of the year, I'm like, can we please just help the students to understand that it's important on the school end as much as our family celebrated him. Same thing with, we talk about PSSA scores, advanced, advanced, advanced. and I don't hear any like incentives on the school end, but we talk about these things being very important. So I'm just wondering about that. I am happy about IXL for reading this year because we use it a lot last year for math, but I'm wondering how can we use it in a more productive way. So I went to conference last night for Progress, and they're using IXL reading in school, but not for homework. So I'm like, just put it in there because they have access to it. Like, why not use it? It's beneficial, it's a resource, so I'm wondering how can we incorporate that? And then my other question may be off basis, but I'm wondering about the timeline for middle school. Do we have any updates on that? Those are my questions.
All right, I'll take a crack at all these. Thank you for coming out, by the way, before Thanksgiving, and parent engagement's awesome. I'll start with the last one. We put out a homework incentive this time last year, so homework should be happening with those online resources. I will tell you that we got some criticism and pushback from parents who are unhappy that we moved to 15 minutes of practice using those online resources outside of school. And agronomic was one of the areas where we got some negative pushback, believe it or not. But the goal is to use these resources and this technology to help so that parents don't have to even engage. The Amira and the work communicates with the kids through artificial intelligence so they can correct themselves to do it. So we'll continue to work on communicating homework standards. I'm sure Josh is over there biting on his nails. He's communicated this out. They should be practicing these skills. I know Josh is on board with that as well. With respect to incentivizing, I don't want to go back too far about this for attendance. But just humor me, if you will. If you've done this job long enough and you've been in education, you'll remember the idea of the outbreak of a flu or a virus several years ago, before the pandemic. Does anybody remember the name of it? H1N1? Well, when H1N1 came out, we were asked to eliminate perfect attendance procedures in school districts as a way to incentivize kids and recognize it. As a result of H1N1, recognizing kids and incentivizing kids for coming to school was eliminated. Now, we can certainly bring back that idea of recognizing it. That's kind of a blast from the past. But, there's always this in vogue, out of vogue. So H1N1 came, you should not be giving out perfect attendance awards any longer. So we can get back to looking at that, hopefully, and get our way out of a pandemic. As far as recognizing kids for academic achievement, we do that on a regular monthly basis here, but you gave us a great idea. One of the things we can consider to do, not that I want to have more and longer board meetings, but maybe what we'll start to do is recognizing the kids who are doing really well fall, winter, and spring in a more public way on their MAP testing and other incentives from an earlier age, not just at the high school end with how high they're achieving. So I appreciate that feedback. That's something we can do to incentivize younger kids, that we recognize you and we celebrate you and we can make a big deal out of it. So I appreciate you coming tonight and giving some of that feedback. We do it a lot with the high school kids. We probably should do a little bit better of a job with elementary age students. So I appreciate that criticism and feedback.
Thank you. Are there any additional public comments? Okay. Can we recap? Thank you.
Okay, so tonight we had 2 agenda items, the first of which was informational only, was a district review of the interconnectedness among staff, staffing, attendance, and student achievement. The second agenda item is policies, which is for board action, policy 323. That's it.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to President Don Field.
Thank you. Motion is in order for the adjournment of the Education and Pupil Services Committee meeting.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.